All right, welcome everyone to the alumni panel for this year. We're so glad you're here to join us. We're waiting for more people to file in, but for now, let's begin. All right, so let's just first introduce our officers for this year, starting with Valerie.
Hi, everyone. I'm Valerie. I'll be this year's president. I've been in MUN. This will be my fourth year in MUN, and my favorite MUN memory for me would be touring DC with my friends.
All right, my name is Maple. I'm the other president, and same thing. This is my fourth year in MUN. My favorite memory was probably taking long night walks during DMUNC, which is our UC Davis conference last year.
Hi, I'm Sid. I'm the Vice President of Logistics this year. This is, I think, my fourth year in MUN, and my favorite MUN memory was Washington, D.C.
All right, and Nathan and Elizabeth aren't here to join us today, but we'll move on to Kiara.
Hi everyone, I'm Kiara and I'll be the Director of Logistics this year. This is my third year in MUN, and my favorite MUN memory would probably be attending DMUNC and wrestling with my partner, Sana.
Hi, I'm Amy. This is my second year in MUN, and I'll be the director of training. My favorite memory of MUN is also going to DC and watching a movie on the plane with some of my friends.
Yeah, and then Sana won't be joining us, so we'll move on to Tanush.
Hi, I'm Tanush. I am the secretary slash treasurer. This is my second year in MUN, and my favorite part in MUN was after UC Davis throwing water balloons at my friends.
Okay, cool. So before we get started with the alumni panel itself, we're going to do a super brief introduction to what Model United Nations is and what our club does on a weekly basis. So within Model United Nations, students represent a country or a historical figure with the United Nations committees. They collaborate with students across the globe and across the state and the nation to create solutions to real-world international issues. And next, we also bring our students to a variety of conferences throughout the year, and they compete to win several different awards. So the skills that you master through Model UN include leadership, leading a group of individuals to solve an issue, public speaking, that's talking in front of a group of other students, and also chairs or judges. You learn how to debate and master different perspectives of the same topic. You learn how to research, problem solve, international relations perspectives and issues, and you also learn how to network.
So we have a lot of conferences lined up for this year. Some major ones are SMUNC, hosted by Stanford, C-Monkey, hosted by Columbia University, and D-Monk and B-Mon, which are hosted by UC Davis and UC Berkeley, respectively. At these conferences, you can get a lot of awards for research, leadership, public speaking. And if you're worried about awards for college admissions, these are great for those.
Yeah, and just a quick note for everyone asking in the chat, this meeting is being recorded. So in case you can't attend all of it, we're going to be sending the YouTube link recording afterwards.
So as Valerie mentioned that MUN is great for college admissions, here are some of the colleges that our MUN alumni have attended that you can see on screen here.
So these are the list of majors that our Lynbrook MUN alumni have pursued over the years. As you can see, they've gone on to pursue a very diverse range of fields, from international relations to computer science and human biology. MUN remains a very beneficial activity irrespective of your college major.
So in the past, we've won many awards, including at universities like Stanford, UC Berkeley, and Georgetown. And we've also won awards we've won international awards at conferences, including one of the biggest MUN conferences in North America with over 3,300 student competitors. And last year we won about 50 awards across all our conferences.
And so now our alumni will introduce themselves. We have 5 in total, so thank you to our alumni for coming.
Hi, I guess I'm first. I'm Jojo. I actually currently just graduated from Berkeley. I studied computer science and business at Berkeley, and before that, I was in MUN for 4 years. One of my favorite memories from my time in MUN was going to Berkeley MUN. Definitely not why I decided to go to Berkeley, but I did make a lot of really close friends that I still talk to today from that conference, and I think it was the conference where I've like grown the most. MUN has really helped me come out of my shell. I was very introverted entering high school, and I think MUN was a huge reason why I improved in that realm. And I think that it has definitely been one of the main reasons that I like grew the most throughout high school. So I've definitely learned skills that were immensely um, just uh, like impactful that really affected me in college and beyond. And yeah, I definitely recommend the club to all the freshmen watching.
Great. I'm Ian. I'm a rising sophomore at NYU studying finance. I was in MUN for 4 years, starting in my freshman year. And I think it was really helpful in helping me develop my speaking skills. I think it's similar to what Jojo was talking about. I think I entered high school with a more introverted personality, and it helped me kind of come out of my shell and develop a little bit more of my speaking skills. And obviously, I think a lot of people mentioned the DC conference, but for me, that was my favorite memory, getting to travel with all of my other MUN members to DC for 9 months.
Hello, nice to meet you. I know there's a question in the chat, but I guess we can get to those later. My name is Larry. I joined Model UN sophomore year of high school, and I only put three because it's high school MUN, but I also do MUN in college, and I was the VP of my MUN club in Illinois last year. But my favorite MUN memory is Trojan MUN, which is like the USC equivalent college conference for Model UN. And even in the college circuit, there's so much you can do and so much you can talk about. And in addition, Model UN has been very helpful for me. Like I am majoring in CS plus econ and stats, but Model UN has helped me make great memories, improve my public speaking, leadership, and so on. So definitely, Model UN has been very helpful for me.
Hi everyone. My name is Shayan Ganguly. I'm a freshman at UC Berkeley, intending to study data science with a concentration in economics. My favorite MUN memory, for the 4 years that I did MUN in high school was traveling to Washington D.C. and attending NIMUN in my freshman year. Um, for me, MUN really helped me like become a more articulate writer. And I also was able to use parts of my experience in MUN in some of the college essays that I wrote, because it was, a very character building experience for me.
Hi, I'm Sophia, and I'm also an I am a freshman now at USC, and I'm basically going to study computational neuroscience and business administration, and I got in for neuroscience, and I was in MUN for 3 years, and my favorite MUN memory was winning Santa Clara Valley MUN with Cheyenne, because that was my first in-person conference, and just in general, having a lot of fun in MUN. And I would say I'm an introvert, like many of our alumni here, and MUN has really, really helped me improve my public speaking skills and come out of my shell, but also knowing how to like talk in a more formal setting and politic. And it also has given me the ability to like trust myself in more formal situations if that's something that you're looking to do.
Okay, cool. So let's move on to our Q&A period. If you have any questions, yeah, thank you, Anushka. You can raise your hand, or you can also DM Valerie in the chat with any questions you have, and we'll answer them. Additionally, when you guys signed up, many of you guys also wrote down questions that you wanted answers, so we'll cover those as well. But let's first start off with a question that we received in the chat about public speaking and debate background. Amy, do you want to answer that for us?
Yeah, for sure. So I wanted to say that like public speaking and debate background is definitely not needed to join MUN. Like personally myself, I didn't have any experience this year going into MUN, but something that definitely helps is we have a training team that is led by myself and Nathan. And then the two of us work throughout the entire year to host workshops and other events throughout the year to help new members get experience and just learn it through the entire process of competing in Model UN. So experience is definitely not needed.
All right, and then Anushka?
Hi, I have two questions. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay, so first of all, do you represent the same country throughout the entire year, and then debate on varying topics, or do you change your country depending on what's applicable to the conference topic?
Does any alumni want to answer this question with some examples of the conferences they've attended?
I can take this one. Or
you
Sean
take it
also-
later.
Oh no, you can take it, Sean. Go ahead. Yeah.
Okay. Someone's gonna have to remind me of the second question, but the first question was, do you represent the same country over like your entire MUN career? And the answer is no. Sometimes you don't even represent countries depending on the situation that's in each committee, but each conference that you go to, and each committee that you're a part of is a completely unique and distinct situation. And so I've, for instance, like in Santa Clara Valley One, I represented France, but in that same conference the next year, I represented, I think, it was Argentina. So you're not tied down to one country, but you are most of the time assigned a country at the beginning of each conference. Can someone remind me of the second question?
Oh no, I haven't asked it yet. Sorry. How many conferences are there typically per year?
Yeah, I can take that. So this year we'll have 6 conferences. And so I think 3 of those are travel conferences. So UC Berkeley, UC Davis, and then we'll be going to New York. There's a conference at Columbia University. And then we'll also have like 3 local conferences, like at local high schools and Stanford. And then we'll have at least 1 mock conference, which is basically a conference within our school and maybe some other schools. That's more for practice and for beginners. So that's also a great way to improve your skills.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. So for our next question, this kind of encompasses a lot of the other questions that I've seen so far, but it's how do we properly manage our time with clubs, with schools, any methods and strategies that we suggest?
So I can take this one now, I guess. So when it comes to time management, like I know everyone here is probably some high achieving student at Lynbrook, hoping to get into the best college and do the most. But I would recommend for time management is actually like decommitting your time. Like not as like, doing nothing, but focusing on what you really want to prioritize. So I think it's better to, do 1 or 2 things very well versus doing 5 things, half-heartedly. So I feel like that's my word of advice. Sort of decommitting things that you feel are less important and focusing on what you really are passionate about and, I really love to do.
Yeah, I can add on a bit. I definitely agree with what Larry said about like figuring out what you want to do, but also like for me, I find that kind of over like estimating the amount of time you need for each thing and blocking that out for you will work a lot better. And something else you really need to be aware of is your sleep schedule. People say this a lot, but make sure you block out enough time for your sleep and also just for like mental health time. And just basically always overblock because you never know if something unexpected is going to come up or you forgot something. And one thing I use to block my time is Google Calendar. That's super helpful. And if you guys also want to get into Notion, that's really easy for you to kind of keep track of your assignments and to-do lists.
Thank you. So we got a live question from Sriram. What kind of research do you do as a MUN member? Anyone can take this one.
So it really depends on what kind of conference you're going to. So each conference, when you attend, I think this was mentioned before, but you get a different country and a different topic. Sometimes it can also be an individual. And so what you'll do is you'll research the topic background and what other countries have done in the past, what has happened in the past, and also what your country policy is. So you'll learn more about your individual or country and what they might think about this topic. And that's kind of how you structure your view during the actual conference and what solutions you'll push for and how you'll debate. So you generally do this before each conference.
All right, and then I'll quickly answer another live question we received earlier. So how and when can I join the club? Typically registration doesn't open now during the summer, but during September, around the second week of September is Club Info Week, which is when all the clubs release their registration information. So if you guys just keep a lookout for us through like our Instagram or through our email as well, we'll be sending out the registration link for that. Yeah.
Okay. We'll go through another question from the form. Is there anything that you wish you knew or wish you would have done when you were a ninth grader?
Yeah, I can chime in on this one. So ninth grade was like 8 years ago for me. But I think that after graduating college and I think just looking back, I think I focused a little bit too much on kind of, grades in college and writing this way that I thought everyone else was writing and kind of measuring myself against like kind of societal standards. And I really wish I took more time to just figure out exactly what I wanted to do. I think a lot of times at Lynbrook, at least in the Lynbrook that I knew, like it felt like you were always behind because everyone was signing up for like, speech and debate when they were in sixth grade or like taking the SATs when they were in like middle school. But I think I would have just like calmed down a little bit more and tried to explore all my options. So joining a lot of clubs, doing if you have any interest in MUN or any other club, just try it out for a couple months. I think I was a little bit scared to do that because of all the things people were telling me. You don't have to get an award in the club in order for it to be worth it, as long as you learn something about yourself and what you want to do. And yeah.
Just to add on, I mean, I completely agree with what Jojo said. Like high school feels like you need to be doing everything all at once, but in reality, I think what I think I should have done is kind of taken a step back in ninth grade and like looked at what I really wanted to do. Because what the clubs and stuff that I ended up joining in ninth grade weren't necessarily as angled towards the things that I actually found interesting initially. So like grades and all of that is important, but the impact that ninth grade grades will have versus the impact the choices you make in ninth grade will have are completely different. And I would have focused more on like the choices of the things I did instead of trying to load up on like doing everything at the same time to try to, be this student that I thought everyone else was.
All right, let's answer another live question in the chat. In retrospect, are there any activities which you regret spending your time on?
I can hop in on this one. I think I think it's for me, it's like I never feel like I regret any of the things that I participate in. And like this is kind of a bad way to go at this question, but I think like you should never go into an activity thinking, oh, what if I'm making the wrong decision and I don't actually like it? I think every activity you do in high school and in life in general kind of builds your own personality and builds who you are. So like don't ever feel like you need to do X, Y, and Z in order to be like the best you. I think like the experiences that you'll have are going to be something you shouldn't regret, and it'll be helpful and beneficial no matter what you end up doing.
Okay, yeah, thank you. Our next question is, how did you select which colleges to apply to?
I can do this one because I just did the application process, but it was actually a pretty long process. And one thing I'll say is I didn't decide like all at once and then follow through with that. I definitely added and dropped colleges as application process went on. But one thing that was super important to me was like the environment around the school, because not only does it like kind of set the mood for your experience, determine like what activities there are around, but it's also something you need to consider when you're looking for like jobs. Sometimes the city you're going to might be really great for your job or not that great for what you're looking for. And that's something I would consider a lot. And then something I would also kind of emphasize that, at least for me, was the vibe around the campus. And this was really important to me because I wanted to be able to have an environment where I knew I would thrive and meet people who are similar to me, but also be able to keep and do my work and be in a positive mindset as opposed to burning out. So those were kind of the things I looked into. And the last factor I would really tell like underclassmen to consider is whether or not you would truly go to this college. A lot of students apply to prestigious colleges or safety colleges because they're worried they're not going to get in and have to go to community college. But community college is really not that bad of an option. I'd really say think about it and think about whether or not the ROI for investing in such an expensive school is worth it, and whether or not you're actually going to go to this college over a community college and transferring or something.
Yeah, and I think I can just add on there. Sophia kind of stole what I was gonna say, but I think like the big thing that I think Lynbrook is kind of bad for is that everyone seems to like be pushed toward the same schools, same personality, same majors. And I think like a big thing you should remember when you're applying to your school or your college is that college isn't just like a name on your resume. It's also where you're spending 4 years of your life. And if you can't actually see yourself being there, it doesn't matter how prestigious or how amazing the campus looks. If you can't imagine yourself being a student there for 4 years, you shouldn't apply to the school.
Yeah, thank you. Our next question is a live question from Audrey. She asked, did any of you guys get scholarships? And if so, how did you go about obtaining them?
Okay, hi. I guess I can go. I was able to get a merit scholarship from my school directly, and this was kind of a process that I didn't really expect. My mom pushed me to apply to scholarships, but a lot of schools that you're applying to will give you specific scholarships depending on like your major or just like the school in general. So that's also something you can kind of look into when you're applying to colleges, because some schools will give out a lot more scholarships than others and also financial aid. I wouldn't say there was exactly any process about going this. There are special deadlines for certain scholarships for schools. So that's something else you do have to research and make sure you just get your submission in by the deadline, because that could give you like a full ride or like half ride, and just be on top of deadlines.
Yeah, wait, and then just to hop in real quick, like for me, I think a big thing that I made a mistake on is like not doing FAFSA and CSS. So even if you don't expect yourself to get any like need-based financial aid for a school, a lot of the time schools don't even consider you for merit aid if you don't do FAFSA and CSS. So just make sure you do that regardless, like because those 3 hours could save you a whole lot of money.
Yeah, and to add on, I guess I have two answers to this. The first is if you're really enjoy test taking, you can try to study for the PSAT. You can get a national merit scholarship, which is some, but for schools like I think USC and some other schools, you get like very substantial scholarships if you're a national merit scholar. And in addition, like even at your university, you can apply for merit-based scholarships as well. So sort of the process doesn't end after college apps. You can still, go for awards and scholarships even at your university.
Thank you. Our next question is from Aditi asking, how did you decide what major you wanted to study?
I think I can jump in on this. Obviously, I haven't graduated with my major yet, so it can completely change. But when I originally started, I wanted to do something to do with law, and then I looked up the degrees that had like that got you into law school, and one of the things I saw was economics. And so I took an economics course, and then that really like the pressure from that course was like, if you really want to do economics and work with financial data, one of the things you might want to invest more time in is data science and computer science, because that's how the world of economics is, that's the direction it's moving in. And from that, I kind of started to explore data analytics a little bit more and found a lot of interest in like the little programs that I enroll myself in. And that's kind of how I decided upon studying data science. And I think across the board for to every college I applied to, I just applied data science straight up because that's what I think I want to do. So yeah.
I can also chime in on this question. I think so. I went into college, or I applied to colleges as a business slash econ major. And then over the summer, I had a full life crisis, and I was like, I need to do something artsy. I can't deal with these business bros. So I wanted to go into UI UX design. And then I was doing a couple of projects with like a couple of engineers, and where I was like designing some apps and then they were building them out. And no one knows how to do front end. So basically, I was tired of handing my designs over to these engineering kids and for it not to come back how I wanted it to look. So I was like, maybe I'll do like a CS major because I had never coded before. And I always was like very much like, oh, everyone else is coding and learning Java and like web dev and whatnot. So I'm not gonna do that. But I think my whole like design experience made me understand the value of coding. And then it turns out that the computer science major has nothing to do with building apps and websites. And it's more about the math and the theory and all of that. But I did enjoy the classes, so I stuck with it. And then after I had my business and computer science majors, I was like, I don't want to go into consulting, nor do I want to code. So I ended up going into product management. So I think I wanted to say that just as like people, you don't have to know, first of all, what you're doing. You can explore that throughout your college career. And even after you decided on a major, your career, it doesn't mean you're stuck into one thing for the rest of your life. And a lot of people don't do things that match up exactly with their major, but as long as you like it and you're getting a lot out of it, that's what you should be focused on, I think.
All right, let's take another live question. So JL asks, what kind of writing skills are most helpful to Model UN?
So for this question, I would definitely say like the formal writing that you learn in school is super helpful, along with like formatting can be helpful for writing your papers. And on top of that, like having creative ideas, especially for solutions, is helpful. And even if you're not sure about what to do, you can always come to like our workshops where we're also going to have opportunities for you to like submit your papers or speeches ahead of time where officers will help you look them over. So you don't need to worry about that, and we can help you out.
Okay, let's take another live question. So, all right, do any of the alumni have any perspectives on college counseling?
I think it can be very useful, but at the end of the day, I would say it's really up to the person being counseled to determine the path you go with that. For me personally, I didn't feel like I leveraged it enough, but they are very useful resources if you ask them the right questions. For example, if you have questions on like scholarships, a specific major, or like a program, you could obviously turn to your college counselor. However, what I found a little more helpful in terms of college applications was alumni. And this is because they have live experience at these schools and they're able to tell you a lot more of the culture and the different programs at the school as opposed to college counselors who learn it through a different like network. So I would definitely say if you feel like you're someone who needs a lot of guidance and direction and pushing to get your college apps done, a college counselor might be for you. But if you're very self-driven, have an idea of what you want to do, and you're a pretty good writer, just do it by yourself and talk to people who are at the schools that you want to go to.
Yeah, thank you. Our next question is, what do you currently do in colleges? Like in college, like what activities and clubs are you currently participating in?
I can take this one. I think right now I do a lot of different things. I think a big thing with NYU is a lot of people intern. So I do intern most of the school year. I'm also involved in like on-campus honor societies. I'm in a student-run investment club, a lot of different just like school organizations. Yeah, I don't know. I don't really know how that question should be answered.
Well, I can kind of add on. Because like I mentioned earlier, I do Model UN in college too, which is a really cool experience if you liked mine in high school. But also one thing about like big research institutions like UIUC and a lot of the public universities is that like there's a lot of resources when it comes to like research and professors. So I'm involved in like business research and also a CS research project. So there's like there are a lot of opportunities available, but it's up to you to sort of do that cold outreach and reaching out for people to see if you can help out with the project and so on.
I have one thing to add here that's like kind of related to the question. But I think in college, the difference between college clubs and like high school clubs, for those of you that are going into your like first years and stuff, I think it's like so much more important to just quit things in college that you don't like. Because like in high school, you might be thinking of like, oh, colleges might want me to like do this thing for 4 years. But in college, there's like no pressure to do that. And like there's like if you don't like the people even, but you like the topic, you can find a different group of people that does that. Right. So don't be afraid to quit things. I think I learned that later on in college, and I kind of regret not spending more time doing things that I want to do earlier.
Thank you. So this question is from the form. It's how did your involvement in MUN contribute to your overall profile as a college applicant?
I think for me, MUN, one of the things it did is it just made me a more articulate writer. I think I already talked about this, but it just like random words that I would have never picked up, and like all of that, like I just like picked it up because of MUN. Um, but the other thing is, from my experience in teaching MUN and teaching public speaking, I was able to write like essays about learning from people like Larry and then teaching those same skills to like the next generation. Like that was one of the things I wrote about. So it was I was able to kind of form like one of the parts of me in my application by talking about my experience in MUN.
Yeah, and I think like just to add on to this, I think like MUN is a great place for you to develop like your leadership and social skills. Beyond like I think MUN offers something you don't really get in like speech and debate or mock trial, in that it's a lot of it is very improv. When you're in committee, you're talking directly with other people and other delegates, and you're working with them to create solutions. So rather than just like speaking, you're actively trying to create solutions for problems, as well as working with these people, and kind of convincing them to agree with you, right? And I think like that kind of social component is something you miss in a lot of other activities. I think really helps when it comes to like both just college applications and into the future, where you develop more of a sense of how do I work with somebody? How do I convince them to do something that I think is a good idea? And how do I take an idea and make it into like an actual proposal or an actual solution?
All right, and just to briefly interrupt the questions, we do have another alumni called Rohan joining us right now. Rohan, if you'd like to give us a really brief introduction.
Yeah, sure. Thanks for the prompt. Hi, I'm Rohan. I study math and CS at the University of Washington. I was a part of MUN from like all 4 years of high school from 2016 to 2020. And the main things I did in high school were Model UN and mock trial. So I was really active in like the public speaking and public forum space in high school. So that was most of what my high school experience was like. And I was also part of the initial team for Miller Model UN, along with Larry, who's also here. So a lot of my experience with MUN also focused on that. If you have any questions or are curious about that experience as well.
Thank you. So there is a question, but it might not apply. Are any of you guys Boy Scouts? It's a question about an Eagle Scout project.
Yeah, so
I'll
I don't know.
also okay.
Oh yeah,
Are
I'm a
you
so what was the question
okay?
question
The question
specifically?
is, does being an Eagle Scout help in college applications?
Yeah, I can take this one. So this is kind of unrelated to Model UN. I don't know how in depth y'all want me to go, but yeah, I was also in scouting from like first grade and onwards. And yes, Eagle Scout rank like does look good and help for applications. But I would say similar to Model UN, it's more about the process like you spend to get there. So the process you spend, learning a Model UN and getting towards a gavel, or the process you spend doing an Eagle project and working towards Eagle Scout, like the process is what's more important and what you can actually write about in essays. So, tying it back to Model UN. So yes, it definitely does help, but of course, like the process is what's important.
All right, we have another, or let's answer this one. So what is the best way to connect with Lynbrook alumni?
Um, okay, just real quick, I think like if you want to kind of like connect with alumni, LinkedIn is always a great platform. But again, I don't think any freshman should be downloading LinkedIn. Just as my own personal take, I think you guys should be focusing on having fun in high school. You have a lot of time afterward, to like start thinking about your career. But I think like especially if you're a freshman or a sophomore, like try to just enjoy high school before you get caught up in all of that.
I would also say like alumni are very receptive to like random questions you have. Like if you just find their Instagram and like DM them, most of the time they'll give you a pretty good response and they're like really happy to help. So just go for it.
Okay, thank you.
Um,
The next question. Oh,
so really quickly, a couple times this has been mentioned. So a gavel is basically when you get first place in your committee for a Model UN conference. You get a sort of a gavel that judges use. It'll be your judges, which are called chairs in Model UN. They'll be using that throughout the committee, so throughout the conference. And at the end, the winner gets to keep it and take it home. So it's kind of like a trophy. And so yeah, that's what people mean when they say going for the gavel or I want a gavel. That means they got first place or they're going for first place.
yeah. If you have any clarification questions that you want to ask, you can always put that in the chat as well. So our next question is, what advice do you have for current participants on making the most of their Model UN experience?
I can take this one. So I would say personally for me, I'm still very much so an introvert, like to really just throw yourself in. A lot of times these conferences will look scary or you're like last minute, like, should I back out? Like, I don't have time to do like this research paper, but you'll pull it together. And even if you don't, going to the conference in itself is a really good experience. You learn a lot of things from each conference. And just like try to speak up during club meetings and during conferences because that's the only way that you'll kind of learn and gain that experience. And even if it doesn't go too well, you're still learning. So just throw yourself out there.
All right, and then our next question is pretty specific. So alumni, if you don't have an answer to this, that's fine. The question is, did any of you do speech and debate, and how did you balance both Model UN and that? Yeah, or I guess this could be mock trial as well. Okay, if not, I guess Valerie and I can answer this since we both did speech and debate and Model UN. So we were public forum debaters and then policy debaters. I guess it is pretty difficult to balance since both activities require a lot of research into really in-depth and specific topics. But what is nice about doing both of these activities is that the skills you need for these are applicable to both Model UN and speech and debate. That those skills include learning how to debate, learning how to convince other people, and learning how to share your perspective on a certain issue. Yeah, and then another live question we received from Audrey is how early should you start with writing your essays, and when should you start asking for rec letters?
Are you talking about college essays or Model UN conference essays?
I think they're referring to college essays.
For college essays, I think you should ideally start like the summer before you apply. So like if you're applying for like fall 2024, you just start like summer 2023. I think like one thing that helps is taking a lot of time and then reviewing your essays after a lot of time. I think like if you only spend like a week and you review it after only a week, you don't see the flaws as well. If you spend like a month and you review it after a month. And I think letters of rec, I asked for my letters of rec at the very end of my junior year of high school. I think ideally it's best to have a plan in mind and know who you want to ask. I think in my mind, like I had two teachers junior year who I knew would make really, really strong letters of recommendation, and I didn't hesitate to ask them as soon as my junior year of high school ended. And I think asking as soon as you can is ideal. And I think you want to ask before the first, or like before the first month of senior year ends, because that's when most teachers will have like their kind of stockpiled up, and you want to make sure you're one of their like first like askers or askees, so they like they're kind of like standing, you're kind of standing out in their mind, and they'll write like a strong letter of rec for you.
All right, cool. And then our next live question is how many APs are required to get into college? I don't think there's like an exact number, but maybe some alumni you guys can clarify like how APs have helped or like what APs you guys have taken. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. I can take this one. So I don't think like I don't think there's like a set number for sure. Like, but if you go to Lynbrook, like most people at Lynbrook take a lot, and I can speak to how it's helped me. So at my school, the amount of credits that are required to graduate is 180. So taking AP classes actually contributes towards that total, assuming you pass the requisite score on the AP test at the end of the school year. So I think I took like 10 or 11 APs during my time at Lynbrook, and I literally got over a whole year's worth of credits. So when I came into college, I came in with sophomore standing. I had 50 credits out of 180 already completed, and I had like early registration. I had like early registration in terms of timing and in terms of getting the classes I wanted. And taking those AP classes makes your college schedule a lot more flexible, and it makes you able to graduate early within an early time frame or have more flexibility within like exploring what major or options you want to study. And I think in terms of college, if you take a lot of AP classes and you pass those tests, it can really only benefit you in terms of giving you more flexibility with what you want to do and study in your college life.
Yeah, and adding on, I think Ron makes a good point. Like a lot of things you do, like college isn't the end goal. Like the goal, taking an AP test, isn't to get in college. It's to, have credit when you're in college. So always keep in mind that sure a lot of these questions are based on like college apps and so on, but like college is not like the ends. So
All right. So our next question is, did any of you play competitive sports outside of school? And how did you balance this along with clubs, schoolwork, and other extracurriculars? And how did it help with college admissions?
Yeah, I played competitive soccer basically my entire life. So from like elementary school all the way up to high school, like senior year. I played for the Lynbrook team as well. I was in varsity like 3 years. In terms of like balancing it, I think like there was a point in time where like right before COVID happened where I was doing like three things and competitive soccer was one of them. And it can be really hard to balance. But I think ensuring that you're doing things as soon as you can. So if you have like a 20-minute like random break here, instead of kind of just chilling, you're like getting something done and you're working towards like an end goal of I want to accomplish X, Y, and Z today. I think kind of accomplishing that mindset in my life really helped me. And in terms of applying for college, I don't think it's like a deal breaker or anything, or it's not going to make or break your application. So if you do or don't have it, I wouldn't worry about it. But I think it definitely just like it adds a different element to you as a person. and it helps kind of give you a sense of continuity and just another kind of a, like another kind of way of speaking to like your leadership and community experience, I would say. But it's not something that like really makes your application or breaks it, in my opinion.
I think I also want to hop in on this question. I play club volleyball and I'm also on the high school volleyball team. And I feel like with during the fall season, I'm almost more productive than off season because I have the same amount of stuff to do, but I have less time. So I kind of have to manage my time more effectively. And you naturally do that when you have time cut out for your sports. So I feel like you shouldn't put sports as your last priority in school because it does enrich your life in a different way. Okay, we have another question from the form. It's, as an underclassman, how did you decide which clubs or activities to join?
I think my strategy was very much so throw yourself into whatever seems interesting. I would recommend picking up like maybe like 5 or 6 clubs in the beginning of freshman year, but obviously you're not going to stick with all of them because it's not possible to properly like involve yourself in all of these clubs. So as time goes on and you see how like these clubs fit into your schedule, what each club does, and how interested you are in the people there, you can decide what you like. And this goes the same way for all your other activities, whether it be like journalism or like ASB or like extracurriculars outside of school. Just see what you really like because if you force yourself to do something that you don't like, well, one, you're not going to enjoy it and you're not going to put your heart into it. And second, you likely won't be motivated to write about it on your college apps either. So I would just really recommend picking up a lot of things and then dropping a good amount as well.
Yeah, and I think adding on to that, like I think for clubs and activities, you should be kind of maximizing for enjoyment rather than like a resume or anything like that. I think you should try to put yourself out there and see and explore as many different topics as possible, but also don't lock yourself into a box too early on in high school. Like there are so many more people change their majors once they get to college. Like there's never a point at which you need to know exactly what you want to do in high school. And I think like the thing with clubs is that they're pretty like non-committal, especially in high school. Like you should just do what you find fun. And I think the fun also translates into better performance. If you actually enjoy the activity, you have a lot higher chance of actually doing well in it. But if you try to lock yourself into something that you think is good for college apps, but you don't enjoy, you'll end up doing worse.
I think one thing I would say is taking like clubs like too seriously is kind of like the fatal flaw in terms of enjoying your experience, both in high school and in college. I would say like what I did, and this is like something that I would say is really put off for me, is only joining clubs where like people either tell me to join or I know I have like friends or like people I know in. And I think like in high school specifically, like I basically only did clubs that like my friends did, and it led to like a really great community. Like I had a really great community basically within every club I was in. And I think like taking like a club too seriously, as in like I want to do this only for a career oriented reason or to put it on my college apps is like kind of a weird decision in terms of like yes, you can do that, but at the same time, like I think finding what you're enjoying and spending time in a way that you enjoy is more important, especially in high school. So I think like taking things a little less seriously and just doing things that you enjoy or that your friends are doing is a bit of a more casual way to do it. And I think it worked out well for me.
All right, great. Just to let's do another question. Okay, so do any of you play any music instruments? If so, did it help with your college application? And this is
chime in on this one.
Oh, sure.
But I wasn't particularly good at music or anything, but I was just had something to say about this. I played the classical guitar and did like the whatever level testing stuff, but I would say that for me it didn't help that much. I don't think it was the highlight of my application by any means. And I think that like in Lynbrook, I felt like we placed a lot of like emphasis on these tests and these awards and these things from these extracurriculars. But at the end of the day, I think what college admissions is looking for is, does this person have a passion? And if this person has a passion like, are they going to do whatever they can to be the best at it, and what can they achieve when they're passionate about something? So that's the only question they're trying to answer. And as long as you have something that demonstrates that, I don't think it's about being like someone who's well-rounded and does like sports and music and blah blah blah. I feel like I did a lot of things very like mediocre. And so a lot of things on my application, like music, like sports, didn't really help. I think what stood out was things that I was actually passionate about and spent all of my time doing. And yeah.
Yeah, I think I wanted to add on to this. I played the violin for like I don't even know how long, since I was a little kid. And I ended up doing like outside orchestra for the first 2 years of high school. But then when COVID hit, I think it was really important for me that I kind of like reflected on my activities and like looked at what do I really enjoy and what do I not enjoy. And obviously, like I think music was a helpful experience for me. I had the opportunity to like travel, play in a variety of different venues, and like really explore that field. But at the end of the day, it wasn't something that I was like super into. And I think like I was able to take that time that I was putting in into practicing, going to rehearsals and all of that, into doing things that I actually enjoyed, and it ended up being a lot more beneficial, both in terms of like me figuring out what I want to do with my life and also just with college applications.
Thank you. Our next question is, how did participating in MUN help you build your network and connections?
Actually, I can. At Berkeley, I met a few people who I originally met at MUN conferences. So in that sense, I was able to make some friends, from high school MUN conferences, in college. Um, the other things is like when you repeatedly go to local MUN conferences, you oftentimes see the same kind of schools that come, and they bring similar delegation the people in the delegation. So you can oftentimes make a lot of friends and connect with people from other schools that you wouldn't have connected with otherwise. Um, and then finally, like sometimes MUN people just up randomly, and it's really funny because you never know their names, but you know which country they represented. So you'll see people go like, "Oh my God, you're France," and we're like, "What?" And you have to like kind of have that conversation, but it's kind of a funny experience. So you can really just it's sometimes really random. But like the more MUN conferences you go to, the more you just meet new people, and oftentimes those new people will show up in your life like after the fact, which could help you out in MUN conferences or just in building a friend circle outside of MUN as a whole.
I'd also like to quickly jump onto that. In MUN conferences, you work closely with a lot of different people. And so when you work closely with them, you build like good friendships. And so I've maintained friendships. I've maintained friendships from Model UN conferences. And then, I've contacted them online and they presented me opportunities as well. So it can also be really useful for finding new things that you like.
All right, cool. We only have 2 minutes of our alumni panel left. So if you guys have any more questions, we invite you to stay back after 12. But just for now, how about all the alumni, we can go around and you guys can give us any closing advice, to all of our attendees.
I can go just because I had something else actually to add on to the network and connections thing. So I can end with that. But I think something that I wanted to highlight is like MUN helps in building like connections beyond kind of the people that you're meeting. I think that throughout like participating in MUN all 4 years of high school helped me become a better global citizen, a more informed person living on the earth. And I think that when you go out into the world and you meet anyone, having that background, having researched so deeply into these topics will help you just be able to connect with people in different countries from different backgrounds in a very like different way than if you hadn't. And I think that's something that's very special to MUN that you can't really get from speech and debate or mock trial or any of that. So I think that's something that I very much valued from my time in MUN. And also, like just having met a bunch of people from like different majors and all of that, like you'd be surprised at the amount of people that did MUN in high school and college. And they're doing a bunch of different things, not just law and politics and econ. So I think it's just something that attracts some of the most like passionate and interesting and smart people. And yeah.
I can go next. I mean, I'll keep it short. I think mainly MUN was one of the most formative like clubs that I was part of. So if you're looking to, you know, like build a good community with people, but also improve skills that you can apply outside of conferences, I think MUN is a club that you should join. In terms of college, um, everyone has a different path, and every path that like any path that anyone takes is completely valid. So even though we are told to only focus on, applying to top schools, and like getting like a 4.0 and whatever, like not having every one of those qualities is completely okay. And it will usually work out.
Yeah, kind of adding on to Cheyenne, I would say if someone is scared of MUN, whether you're an introvert or you're just worried about how will I talk with politics, I'm not interested in politics, I would say MUN is definitely for everyone because the topics that you present about vary from like health sciences to like actual politics or like history. So there really is something for everyone at every single conference. And I would just say try it out and see how you like it because there is a lot that MUN can offer. And I feel like it has made me someone who is able to converse with other people easily and also know what to do in a more formal and business setting. And as for college, take your time, don't stress too much. I know it's very hard to do that, but everything really does come together at the end and you'll realize what your passions really are and how they link together. And just do things because you like it and you enjoy it rather than for college apps.
Yeah, and I think I can add on real quick, that at the end of the day, I think the things you remember in high school aren't like your classes or your tests that you're taking, or like I got 100 on so and so exam, but it's really like the experiences you have in the activities. And I'm a really strong proponent of like doing a lot of different activities that help you meet people and make memories that you'll remember, because I think those are the most valuable things you take away from high school. So when you're looking at the things that you want to do, especially if you're a freshman coming into high school, look for things that seem fun, not for things that seem like they will stand out on a college application, because who knows, in like 2 or 3 years when you're actually applying for college, your entire like perspective or like thing you want to do might be completely different. And if you chose an activity for like one major and you choose to do something else, it won't have as much of a transfer.
So I'll give advice as well. I guess I'll try to keep it short. I mentioned this earlier, but like some final advice, like although like right now it may seem like, college is like the end goal, everything's working towards college, but like even when you're in college, like you should try to set like a strong foundation in high school, I would say. Because like, it doesn't end with college and it doesn't even end, getting a job, right? It's always like work towards a lifetime of growth, and definitely echoing what everyone else has said, focus on what you're passionate about.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think like one thing a lot of people say from our grade at Lynbrook is like that Lynbrook has a lot of like toxicity and a lot of like academic pressure. And I think like one good way to relieve that is your extracurricular activities. One thing I found really enjoyable about MUN was kind of just goofing off with like a lot of my friends, going to conferences and just saying things that like kind of you couldn't say anywhere else and doing things you couldn't do anywhere else. And I think using these activities as a way to relieve yourself of certain academic pressures or certain stress that you have in other areas of like your Lynbrook related life is really useful. And I think making the most of these opportunities is also really key. I think a lot of college discourse has been thrown around, But once you get to college, you realize the kind of like carefreeness that MUN in high school like carries with it isn't really there anymore, and it's a lot more like tense, and there are a lot more like bureaucratic red flags to jump through. So I think like enjoying it your 4 years of high school while you're there is really critical, and making sure you're not taking yourself too seriously and you're just kind of enjoying whatever's going on around you is what I would say.
Yeah, so that concludes our alumni panel. Huge shout out to all the alumni that gave their time today to help us out. So thank you for that. And all our socials are here as well in case you have any questions about the club or Model UN or anything in general. We will post a recording of this on our YouTube and we'll send it out. Feel free to scan this QR code or go to this link if you want to give us some feedback. That'd be much appreciated. But otherwise, thank you for coming. And if you have any questions, then you can send them in the chat now. Yeah, thank you.